performance as we jump into pick and ban for game number 1.
Griffin is on the blue side. They have higher seed selection. They chose blue. Blue considered stronger because of Urgot and other big picks in the meta. But if you play with your bans a bit, maybe you can get 2 OP champions on the red side. So not fully explored yet is the blue versus red side, when it's just, of course, that elevator thought. The Ashe going to be banned against Ruler, of course, one of his go-tos, but plenty of strong picks open as we get to the 3rd ban on Griffin's side.
Gotta like the respect to the Yasuo early up against Chovy. He's 3-0 on the pick, and he looks super clean on that one, so don't want to give that one away.
Gragas was very, very high priority ban against Gen.G. Whether it was Haru or Ambition in the lineup, normally an Ambition champion, that's available. The undefeated Trundle, 12-0, is left open for Griffin. Don't always select it when it's open, but very notable in terms of power level. The Kai'Sa is always going to be something that's looked at, and Urgot, we know, in Korea is considered first pick, first ban. So with everything open, will we go for the Urgot that we know has been played twice by Griffin, both times in the mid lane for Chovy?
They are giving up Aatrox for this, though. Gen.G definitely going to consider that pick. Lots of nodding here from Cuvée, so kind of looks like we are going to see him jumping onto that one. But now we have those big high-tier picks out of the way. What else is going to fill out the composition? Looks like Kai'Sa, a very early pick here for Gen.G.
Now, what will Viper respond into the Kai'Sa? Because we've seen him on Yasuo, one of the bans on red side, into Kai'Sa. He's a old-school Vayne player as well, and Vayne has been sent into Kai'Sa. Jinx and Twitch we saw into Kai'Sa. I'm very interested to see how spicy we get when it comes to bot laners, and it's a different type of spice. It's something very common in China, but definitely not so common in Korea. We're seeing the Lovers bot lane, I believe, for the first time as a duo in the bot lane for Griffin.
Yeah, that is going to come in, and the insta-lock into the Alistar. No thinking about that one. Don't see a lot of Morgana here from Core JJ.
And also, in that 2-0, that great series in the second round robin, 2 games of Cuvée Gnar, 2 games of Core JJ Alistar. And the Alistar has grown to be one of his big picks. 6-1, He did finally lose a game on it, but this is a really big pick for Core JJ, who had a fantastic performance on Alistar against SKT 2 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be one of the memorable moments, his 4-man knockup that just shut the door in SKT's face in game number 2. Definitely a big one. He gets it again. Didn't have to think too much about that pick.
Mid lane champion pool will be interesting here. Do you ban Zoe, or do you just take Zoe on the red side, or is it going to be Chovy just jumping onto Urgot again? Urgot versus Aatrox strikes me a sort of lane that can go pretty even, so it doesn't sound like a terrible top lane matchup. The word among Korean players is that Aatrox has gone from a mid lane pick to a top lane pick more so recently, with just how the meta is going in scrims in Korea, so won't be surprised to see it top. Love the Malzahar ban. Something Crown has to contend with at all times.
In terms of other picks that he has played, he played Lissandra against Akali. Lots of Zoe and Vel'Koz is that obvious one that's left available, but they're not going to pick for the mid lane just yet. They're going to allow Crown that counter pick, or maybe even send the Aatrox mid. You were talking about how that's not too popular, but it's still an option here as Gragas is picked up.
And even without Ambition, the Gragas priority is still pretty high. This is definitely going to be some AP. It was full AP from Haru. Last game out, just a pick champion. Allows you to fight really well in the mid game, and we know Xayah, Rakan, Urgot is a very strong mid game comp already. Griffin haven't shown too much. They can pivot whichever way they want, and it seems like hunting season is on. They're going to go for the Olaf for the assertive moves. They have Xayah, Rakan priority in this lane. They have Urgot priority in basically every lane, so good time already for the Urgot. We're waiting to see if it will once again be Urgot mid lane. They're very low on magic damage in this comp so far. Let's see what they make of it.
I mean, it's CV Max and Chovy talking, so you would think that Urgot's going top, and immediately the Zoe is going to be locked in. Now, what does Crown do up against this? Going to hover that Lulu right now. Could try to play around Ruler and even Cuvée a little bit.
And in the early game, this is always about the jungle matchup. It really helps the jungler to have the Lulu speed up and suite of CC and shields. It's not going to be Lulu Xin like you'd imagine, and he's going to pivot. It's going to be Lissandra. Right. Now, we loved the Lissandra pick into, of course, the Akali against SK Telecom T1. Now we're seeing it against a matchup where you get heavily outranged, Global Fan, A Penta for Viper is certainly possible. The Lissandra's a surprise because he gets so outranged by the Zoe. In a good case, your jungle comes, you've got CC, goodbye, annoying Zoe. In the bad case, you get poked out a lot, Valdez.
You're going to get poked out by a lot of stuff on the opposite side. It's going to be hard to lock down an Olaf who's running at you. You can't ultimate him either. You just got to sit in your own ultimate, I suppose. And there was a big smile on Crown's face, which made me think that he was going to switch at the last second, but this is the last thing I expected. Lissandra definitely seemed like just a counter pick, but he did have a really good game on the Lissandra, so maybe he's just feeling it right now.
Other picks that work into it that even Crown plays, like Syndra, available in this game, and yet decision is Lissandra. That could mean a lot of focus mid lane with help. Gank assist Lissandra strong, but just 1v1 Lissandra on the weaker side of solo laners. So interesting to see the return there, but if Haru starts invading and Crown rotates first, it makes perfect sense.
That it does. Haru looking to show up big here, not going with the Camille, the Xinjiao, nothing too aggressive, but can get on that Gragas. He's faster than you think. Don't look at his belly. Do you want to know what he can do in this game?
But it's jingling, Valdez. How can I not look at it?
Jingling?
That's right.
Well, I've never used...
what word would you prefer to use?
Jiggling?
That word too.
Well, wasn't quite thinking of the one that you were thinking of, Papa.
You told me not to think about the elephant in the room, and now I can just look at that glorious belly.
It's been pretty glorious, especially recently here over at LCK. We'll see if Haru can do it justice. Jumping into game number 1. The countdown has started. Let's jump into Griffin versus Gen.G. The fans slowly pouring in here on this wonderful afternoon. It's a great day for Griffin versus Gen.G. The Urgot is going to be played for the first time by Sword up in the top lane, up against Cuvée, who...
This purple chroma for the mecha skin on Aatrox was badass. You know, of course, that I am a very big fan of purple. That's definitely my suit color whenever I can get it, or shirt color. And loving this chroma. I have to go home and consider that one. But yes, first game on the new Aatrox for Cuvée. He's been practicing in solo queue, but so was everyone. We're seeing the return to a top lane. I did mention that in the scrim meta, Aatrox has gone from being kind of in the mid lane against Ryze, which we saw very commonly, into much more of a top lane pick.
Yeah. First time for both of those top laners going head to head. And let's see what Viper and Lehens can do on this bottom lane. Xayah Rakan. Trying to look through my notes. Actually, Lehens has never played a game of Rakan, so it's going to be his first time on that pick as well.
It was one of my notes in the final of the LCK was that even though he likes the engage picks, he had played none of the Rakans. A good pickup there. Speaking of pickups, it's Legends Bloodline coming through from the Kai'Sa. No teleport, so Ruler expected to be AD Kai'Sa. Again, if you guys weren't watching earlier this week, we now know that AP Kai'Sa is the attack speed Bloodline and teleport usually. Viper playing a lot of that in solo queue. Viper is taking the teleport himself, so we'll be able to find some extra shops in and see if there's any lane swaps here as the matchup goes on. After going to Lissandra, which we already mentioned, kind of struggles purely in 1v1, you could look at Griffin and say 3 priority lanes and Olaf. That's the dream of Olaf from spring season, so unless we can see some really good gank timings, you're kind of worried that Griffin will just run over Gen.G.
Definitely does feel that way. Talking about the priority here in the mid lane, Tarzan thinking about a gank, but Haru is right next door, and it is Lissandra. See you later, she says. Tarzan did clear the entire top side and does have the Predator. Is not going to go home just yet, though.
Let's talk about Keystones. 3 electrocutes on the side of Gen.G, including Haru, who is going to be running. He ran it last time on his AP Gragas and got that successful gank onto Blank, you'll remember, in I believe game number 5 of the series 2 days ago. He's running Electrocute again, not going and cribbing notes from the Spirit school of thought. So 3 Electrocutes is just that little bit more burst in any 2v2, and you have to think if Haru's doing a 2v2, it's going to be topside.
Looks like we might have some action here as there's the Flash Engage from CoreJJ, the double knockup from the Flash Engage from the Gragas, as easy as you like. First blood onto the Xayah already. The TP also canceled here by Sword.
Really clutch gank. We talked about on paper priority. That means so much less if summoners are drawn and someone goes down. Lehens had the heal for this duo, and still the kill is registered. Very nice gank timing. When we saw the mid lane play, Chovy was playing top side because he didn't know where the enemy jungle was, assumed bottom side. In this case, Griffin too far up, not making the same sort of respectful play, and well punished by Gen.G.
It's definitely a fantastic job by them. The one thing that I noticed was CoreJJ looks just even more clean on the Alistar than I remember. I barely even saw the Alistar move, but all of a sudden he was right on top of that Xayah. So just another thing you have to worry for CoreJJ. You can't just spam Tom Kench and think that you're safe anymore. Speaking of which, he's going in again. Not going to amount to much, though.
A lot of free damage for this one, as we can see. It's really about tells. One of the kind of most impressive moments that I think was skipped over in the LCK final was when Sword came in for that big Malphite flank onto the enemy blue buff, and Griffin just thought they were in the position to just take an age to decide when Malphite should go in. Instead, the entire time KT Rolster knew and was playing around turning on Malphite and killing him. That was the pivotal moment that allowed KT to equalize the series. I think Alistar's the same thing about tells. As the mechanical floor of League of Legends gone higher and higher, as players get better and better, you can do so many little moments like that. Speaking of little moments...
Ooh, Crown in a lot of trouble here. He's going to have to flash just right at the last moment. Note that he's running teleport, so gets a little bit hard if you're up against Zoe. Here's Tarzan looking for an axe. That did so much damage with the Predator, but it wasn't enough.
The Predator adding 60 damage is almost lethal in that case. Okay, regardless, he'll go away. They get a bit of a nice back timing there. Tarzan wants to scuttle. Again, on paper, these should all be free. It should be 3-4-0 to Griffin, but it's 1-1 so far, and Tarzan's chasing, but doesn't have first rotation from his support.
CoreJJ does get there, but eventually they have control of the river. A call from Haru, probably to back, and they just let him have that one. Not the end of the world, just the third scuttle.
It's going to be just about how clutch Gen.G can be on ganks, because I think this will be the lane positioning very frequently. The summoners are down, but with the battle dance range on Lehens, they're trying to just step up as much as possible, get those pushing lanes for the Olaf to prosper on. If this ends up being an even gold or worse game for Gen.G after the early game, all the compliments about their draft and all the questions about the Gen.G draft go out the window. Priority means something in pro play, means very little in solo queue most of the time, because priority only means as much as the team gets out of the pushing lane.
Just look at how clean this is. I mean, it's nearly instant, and the follow-up double body slam from Haru was just as perfect.
TP was actually really, really late. I think there was never a chance that that completed and there was some sort of skirmish to fight, so may have wanted to hold on to it. It's not the biggest cost for an Urgot because he can just pop onto an Ignite or another Summoner and fight for lane. So at worst, it cost him a shot timing. At best, he's trying to help out his team.
Trying to see the mechanics of Lissandra versus Zoe. Again, we don't get to see this matchup too often. I've actually never even played it or seen it in solo queue. It's not very common. I'm going to hold the thought because level 6 Tarzan against Haru. Well, let's see if he can get the kill. The axe does miss, but it does not matter as the flash was there. Here comes Cuvee, and the rotation actually. CoreJJ is here, the Hex Flash over the wall, trying to punish him here. Cuvee does have the mechanics on the Tarzan, should be able to take him down. Crown in the end is able to dodge out that one, but here comes Lehens to follow up on the CoreJJ, and he might just be the sacrifice here. Able to take him out, there is Sword, and now Cuvee's also on the run. Crown, did he get a little bit too close here? He's gonna get hit by that Sleepy Trouble Bubble, but does have his ultimate. What will be the follow-up? And it is going to be enough to take him out in the end. A lot of Gen.G being baited into these fights now. The Battlestar is going to miss. Cuvee trying to run here, but it is not going to be enough as Haru also could not help him out. A very extended fight, but Griffin come out ahead.
And the extended skirmishing really does favor Griffin in a big way. Urgot isn't about one rotation. Zoe has consistent damage. There isn't the same on Lissandra. And now Haru just thinks he's free to step up for his red buff.
Apparently he is.
I don't know how long Griffin can stay, but at the end of the day, Gen.G just don't have the same early skirmishing comp, and Cuve's ult was worn out for a long time by the end, so even he goes down in that extended fight.
It's so curious, too, how Tarzan hit level 6 while Haru's level 4 in this one.
Just consider, as each champion shows on the screen, who skirmishes better in an extended skirmish. Multiple axes over one round of spells by Gragas. Didn't matter, Gragas died instantly. The Aatrox is very, very powerful, but this goes for so long that by the end, the fact that Chovy gets here and is just so much more influential than Crown, who never finds an entrance and in the end ends up going down very delayed. Griffin keep fighting, and another area where Urgot excels is these 2 3v3 skirmishes.
Crown just getting a little bit too close, thought he could survive with this ultimate. That is definitely one of the mechanics. As I was talking about before, you just ultimate if you get into a bad spot against Zoe, but again, if you're immobile against her, you're also going to have a bad time.
You fall behind an Urgot, doesn't matter which champion you are, you'll have a bad time. Want to, again, shine the light on Tarzan, a player we were complimenting extensively in the second round, especially for Griffin. He was the one who needed to keep playing around the priority lanes, keep onto the checklist that they drafted for. And even after the gank went wrong, bot side still invading, still looking to prosper, was 2 levels above Haru. When they went for that invade, they need to play a tempo draft and not be dissuaded by problems in the early game. We see Sword, does miss the ult.
Yeah, it's going to miss. They pop Aatrox's ultimate himself, trying to bring Sword back in for a little bit of damage, but is not going to happen. They can just wait this out as nobody else on Gen.G is here. Looks like Juve will just be able to back, though, as the Infernal Drake has been started.
This early game has answered some questions. We wondered about mentality on the side of Griffin. They're still fighting. They're not dissuaded. They don't look broken by the other day. They will lose the Infernal Drake for all their topside attention.
Teleport trying to come in here, but again, it has to be canceled. The Trouble Bubble does get in, but Ruler all alone is going to be able to dash his way to safety. Looked a little bit scary there, but gets away with all of his summoners.
Dominoes are almost pretty 1-by-1 there, Valdez, but in the end, it does end up being Infernal for a failed top lane gank, so you'll take that, certainly, if you're Gen.G. Not happy about how many kills and how early the Black Cleaver is onto the Urgot. They back away. The Infernal is very nice. Mid to late game insurance gives them a little bit less of a time coefficient to actually have the damage to be able to fight back. Still looking for something out of Lissandra. The teleport is back up. Lissandra, if she can decide when the fight is, we know how powerful and reliable she is. If she's responding second and getting out skirmished, she looks like very much a passenger in this early game.
I mean, you look at the 103 CS, Crown probably in need of a buy sometime, but look at how he does have his stopwatch and, you know, just corrupting pot. He had to rush Merc Treads just to try to survive in this lane, whereas Zoe, Chovy is already working on that Ludens.
Definitely the meta we're back to is basically every mid laner will rush Mercs, even if you want to get the fastest possible Ludens. Rod of Ages is out on every champion, no longer a consideration even on a champion like Lissandra. So I imagine still going to be Ludens for both these carries, but actually it's going to be a return to the Proto Belt. That was the build last time from Crown. May end up being both delayed, but Proto Belt coming out from the Lissandra for just that much more of a mid-game punch.
Cuvée looking okay up in the top side. We'll see if they return to that. Really, the Urgot is going to be dominant, but they would like to go in on it only when they do have the Olaf. Tarzan did get that early lead in the jungle, but then missed out on the Infernal Drake, so looking to make something of his jungle from here.
Bit of a game of timings, and right now the timings are kinder to Gen.G than they are to Griffin. Most of a Proto Belt, better than the last chapter. They have a Storm Razor completed, and the shopping timing hasn't come in for Viper, even though he teleported back to lane, because the kill went on to Kai'Sa, and she had just a slender CS advantage. So it's pretty good things coming on the side of the bot side of the map for Gen.G, and the action has slowed down a little bit. See if there's a return to invading by Tarzan, who hasn't exploded ahead in levels, and actually just a level ahead of Haru.
At the end of the day, as the unbiased casters that we are, we're just looking for a return to that, 2-0 that Gen.G got. Not because Gen.G won, but because it was one of the best series that we had in LCK Summer, maybe even the best overall. We were talking about this before, and already the early game hasn't disappointed, right? We got some action. We have some high-level plays from both of these teams, and Gen.G is making it clear they're not going to go down without a fight.
We'll see if this top lane turret is going to go down without a fight. Right now, we're seeing Alistair on the top side, so it looks like there's going to be some fighting. Don't want to give up a free top lane turret into a Rift Herald. Notice the build here from Tarzan screams fight now. He interrupted his Cinderhulk to finish a Hex Drinker to try to avoid, just try to be able to dive in and not just be killed by Lissandra at the end of a fight.
Lissandra, the AP Gragas 2, that 2v2 that you were talking about, it's definitely going to be fantastic against both of them. So I like the item choice overall, just a little bit better than the health.
Gen.G are going to have a burst duo that we've never considered before. Fast Q-Max onto the Kai'Sa because you're going Stormrazor into Pickaxe. When you hit level 9, you have enough AD from these two items to completely evolve, even though you don't get 100 AD from Stormrazor Pickaxe anymore after the changes on 8.15. So already the Q is evolved, and Lissandra with Protobelt is a massive amount of single target damage as well. So a lot of burst there. And small synergy here. Whenever we see Galio, we think of Galio allowing a Kai'Sa to come with Killer Instinct. Basically everything Lissandra does opens up the Killer Instinct as well as Sword finally taking some bad trades against Cuvée.
Yeah. Cuvée still working on his own Black Cleaver. Hasn't really gotten there, but he's still winning some of these trades because they're starting off well for him. We got another good one up in the top side. I was curious about this matchup, not because it's the most interesting one in the world, but as we mentioned before, neither of these players have played a competitive match of these two champions. So comes down to first-time Urgot versus first-time Aatrox, Facetious, of course.
And 8.18, patch notes are out. The word is 8.19 is going to be the World's patch. Neither of these champions have been changed, even though we're on 8.15 today. Power level is a little bit higher for the Aatrox, and Urgot's the same. So at the end of the day, we might be seeing a lot of Urgot versus Aatrox at the World Championship. Yeah. So any data points we can get at high-level competitive play is very good to understand. Duke lost this matchup, the Shy won it. I think if you can play aggressively with a jungle advantage, Aatrox can win if he can play super aggressively. If he pulls back, range versus melee, he ends up losing. There's been a jungle disadvantage, but CS-wise, very happy for Cuvée.
He's hanging tight for now. The bottom lane, after that level 3 gank from the Gragas, has been pretty much just a snooze fest, just hanging around. CoreJJ has done a bit of roaming, a bit more than Lehens, who has been more loyal to his lover in the bottom side in the Xayah. But we'll see once this laning phase actually does end, who's going to be the better engaged support. That's another question we have to answer.
And you very pointedly reminded us, first game pro for Rakan onto Lehens, and we've seen plenty of poor Rakan games around the world. It's a champion where that little circle from the W, the grand entrance, falls a bit low. You can look silly and die instantly. Aframu was having those struggles over in NA, so there's definitely no guarantee that it'll be a top-tier Rakan performance. We'll learn more about it soon, but it is an interesting thing to debut right now in this World's Gauntlet.
Gen.G coach wanted to have some cool picks, some new stuff here in this series. I thought Gen.G were going to be the ones to bring out some weird stuff. They're very standard outside of the Lissandra. I guess the Lissandra is the weird pick for them, but we have seen it once as the counter pick to Akali from Crown. But yeah, still just waiting for a moment to shine after that early game. No other action since then.
Yeah, the power level for Lissandra in the 1v1 is not there. That's why the counter pick made sense, and we cock our heads left and right and say, okay, interesting that he chooses it into Zoe. But if he ults someone, Kai'Sa comes in and allows them to fight earlier with a reliable Killer Instinct engage from Kai'Sa. Definitely it can work. Get the confirmation soon. First turret blood still hasn't been achieved, and it seems like a trade is being started unless someone can interrupt the Rift Herald. Right now we're looking at the mini-map, Olaf pulling away, but Haru's falling very, very low, taking this Cloud Drake.
We'll be able to get it here. They know that the vision has been denied at this Rift Herald. I'm sure they can assume that this is being taken, so they decided to take the Cloud Drake, but at the end of the day, the turret and the Rift Herald for just a Cloud Drake, a really nice trade here for Griffin.
Still, I guess the counterpoint from Gen.G is on paper, losing jungle matchup and 3 losing lanes. If you can get anything resembling a trade, that's probably better than expected and definitely better than the worst case scenario. Bot lane, because of the early gank, is in an even position against the Lovers bot lane from Viper and Lehens. So with all that considered, definitely better than expected for Gen.G, but definitely not outstanding either.
Not half bad, just about 2,000 gold. We'll see where they do use that Rift Herald. You would like to go for the mid lane. Looks like they're setting up for that right now. Just clearing some of the vision first. Take a look at actually Cube coming over the wall here. He's going to be hit by that Sleepy Trouble Bubble. A little bit of burst damage. And Toby is just going to back away.
Looking at the heat map there, not too much advanced movement from Haru, who usually is on the aggressive side. I think we'll see that Camille dusted off at some point this series.
Yeah.
He's probably the only good LCK jungle Camille, undefeated on the pick, and everyone else has tried it and fallen away compared to it dominating in the LPL meta, so would love to see that. A bit of a treat to watch. Speaking of treats, Sword pushes up top side. We get the confirmation that's not a Tovi only pick. We can see the Sword can play it just fine, and soon everyone has to play at Valdez because the pick is very powerful.
If you're a pro and you're in the top lane or the mid lane, heck, maybe even Viper gave it a try. You know how to play the Urgot.
You say maybe, but this is Viper, who played Kled bot lane, so...
Viper has given it many tries in solo queue because...
It's the Viper way.
Yeah.
I went on his solo rank account and saw he was playing a lot of Akali, so I asked him about bot lane Akali, and he informed me, after 4 losses in a row, that it's not very good.
Doesn't sound very good. You're very good at diving 1v1 and 100 to 0ing one person. If they have a support next to them and range, probably not going to be too good. Doesn't sound very good on paper. You say maybe you get some extra engage, but I'd give the real AD carry a better chance in that lane.
The ranges here will be very interesting to watch in fights. Olaf wants to dive, Rakan is joining him, but we've talked a couple of times about how Urgot is best to use as a bouncer, you know, someone to stand next to a marksman or maybe a artillery mage like the Zoe, and use CC and Shred to be relevant. Ideally, Sword and Viper hitting the same target, and the Black Cleaver is shredding for the Viper to do big damage. And speaking of big damage...
Oh boy, this is going to be the combo. Decide not to go for the cast until the end of the Ignite from CoreJJ. Perfect execution and calculation there from CoreJJ and Haru.
It's a very big moment in this game as Tarzan has the Rift Herald and they wanted to set up for a push now. Ruler gets extra time on the bot side, Rakan's off the map, the vision control is going to move away. That Rift Herald's going to time out before too long, and Gen.G pick up their first turret of the game.
Such a good play. He waits until after the grand exit in that case because he knows that if he tries to throw out the cast first, he's going to be late. So he's played this matchup many times. Haru, very well practiced.
Knows that, of course, the AoE is very large, and Grand Entrance is only about a 600 range cast, so you're going to hit it. He'd already gone out, and that last tick of Ignite, thanks for the buff, says CoreJJ. He picks up the bloodthirsty support kill. This game is stabilizing increasingly, and we're getting to the most powerful moment of the game for Gen.G, when 2-item Lissandra and a Kai'Sa who's on 2 items is definitely ready for a fight.
Can already feel like this game is going to be a good one once it gets going. I suppose that was the moment where it has gotten going from Haru and CoreJJ. Thanks for that. But let's see what happens here as Tarzan is going to do a secret Rift Herald play, but now it is known by everybody, and everybody on the side of Gen.G is in the mid lane now.
We almost never see that in Korea because you want to chase the enemy out, then Rift Herald, not have to escort it far. Looks like it's going to get the charge. Lissandra dives in, but it's just a ruse and a bit of poke onto Gragas. If you can make it an ARAM, you feel good about the Zoe.
CoreJJ forced to ultimate there just to survive. They're going to kill it anyway.
Oh, mid-charge too, so it doesn't get the damage onto the inner turret there. Just a single charge. Turret's rolling down, 2-1. The advantage for Griffin, feeling good about launching the Trouble Bubbles. Here's another one.
Yeah, forced to ultimate so that he just doesn't get one comboed by the side of Griffin. And, ooh, ultimate is going to be blocked there by CoreJJ. Notice that the top lane and the bot lane were pushing for Griffin, so they were just fine to continue the ARAM after the Rift Herald. Very nicely set up.
And you think of a different game where the on-paper 3 priority lanes got a bigger lead, and then you see those same players getting kills and people trying to get into lane, instantly getting dispatched. Both Aatrox and Lissandra need to get in range to do damage, and Lissandra's Claw is a great sign for a trouble bubble to be picked up at the end. It's actually very difficult for them to close the distance if they're losing in vision. They're very thankful that in this game, the early game went better than expected. They're babying these picks through, but they need a vision advantage to actually get the most out of Cuvée and Crown. If they're second to a fight, it's very unlikely they make a meaningful impact.
You definitely see a fight that starts with Olaf and Rakan in your face, Zoe and Xayah raining down hell, and of course the bouncer, the bodyguard of Sword on the Urgot. As long as they get it going in their favor, they're going to push forward and most likely get a victory. Both of these teams want to engage, but who's going to get the beginning of the fights? Who's going to start these fights is also a real question.
Gen.G sticking defensive vision, the river controlled top side by Griffin, but noticeably, because of that successful gank being parlayed forward, no advantages bot side. Lahan's playing with his food, he's squishy.
Okay, they found him again, and there's the flash over the wall from Haru. He gets away though. Lahan somehow, some way, able to charm them all up. Viper does QSS his way out of the Crown combo. Either way, though, Lahan's is essentially dead for now. They're going to start up that Cloud Drake.
The fresh QSS on the back is the only reason he didn't die, going for one of those typical AD carry teleport straight in front of 5-member plays. Drake's down to 2,000. It's a Cloud.
Yep, not going to get smited by Sword, as he does not have a smite. And he's just hanging around. GR.J is in an awkward spot, but he's got so much swagger on the Alistar.
You know Haru had to tab, though, because remember, it is Unsealed Spellbook from Sword. We know that he had Cleanse at the time. So we push forward. Griffin continuing to get priority, but they don't control the Drakes. 3 Drakes is a very nice return against Olaf and 3 priority lanes. Potential win condition for later. We talked about how great that series was. It was late game greatness as GR.J. Can't face check onto that Baron spotting brush.
Jovi going fishing with this counterfeit flash. Not able to find much on the backside. GR.J didn't have his ultimate there, so I was thinking, hey, maybe they could catch him out, but the rest of Gen.G were nearby. Griffin now aggressively trying to get vision control around this Baron. We've seen what Zoe can do, especially around that side, if you do have her on the blue side.
Very excited to see what now seems like inevitable late game 5v5 team fights, because neither team screams late game team fight victory. The Kai'Sa is definitely the strongest late game champion, and it's not quite spotted by the sweeper that's down. A lot of outplay available to everyone as Predator's popped.
Okay, Ruler, you are going to have to cleanse your way out of this one, and he will survive in the end with that red buff. Haru, he's pretty squishy, actually, as he did take a lot of AP. Is going to have to back away from that one. Ruler, awkward positioning, not in the bush, so he didn't see them come in.
And very nice summoner trade as well, so actually not being spotted by the sweeper was a benefit to the side of Griffin on that one. They get both summoners and a teleport from Crown. Sword keeps up his TP. He's just pushing, trying to pick up his magic resist item here. Has the Spirit Visage, didn't go for Adaptive Helm this time because the damage is burst rather than necessarily as much on-hit damage as previously in other Urgot games we've seen. So he's at pretty much the 3 items we see Urgot pop off at, where he's unkillable and has that Black Cleaver Shred. Already mentioned a couple times, both teams looking for pretty specific setups. The Bouncer Urgot and the Burst turning into a instant pick for Gen.G. The vision is what's needed to cement what's possible. And right now the River Vision still owned by the side of Griffin.
Well, looking for Jovi here. He is going to use his real flash to get away from that one. That's a very, very nice trade, obviously, for the side of Gen.G. Now potentially looking for a follow-up. They're at least going to bully Griffin out of this river. The river is now Gen.G's outside of that one Rift Scuttler, granting them vision.
Kind of push with priority here, and it looks like Viper's making his Uzi-esque play. He's definitely Uzi-esque in wanting to pick up all the side lane farm in the mid-game to either catch up or extend an item lead. So he'll be isolated from his team more than really any other AD carry in Korea. The last one I can remember being like this is Ruler a couple of years ago, who was caught farming quite a lot in 2016 in his rookie split. So trying to find farm right now. The Kai'Sa and Viper patrolling the side lanes. No teleports between them at this moment. We back away, and it's the calm before the storm. A big 5v5 around Baron, or maybe even the next spawn, Infernal Drake, is almost guaranteed to happen.
That is what we're all waiting for here. Question is, who's going to get the jump on the other team? So far, Gen.G have pretty much all the vision around that Baron. No teleport advantage to either side, as both Crown and Viper have used there. It's just 1-1 for now. Both the AD carries farming up on the top side. No big difference in the items. I suppose the Kai'Sa is just slightly ahead with the kill and about 10 extra CS.
I look at the items, specifically Tarzan's. We talk about the early Hex Drinker interrupting the Cinderhog. He went Black Cleaver, which is another snowball item. You can kind of think of it as two snowball items on Olaf. Black Cleaver first was a snowball, the Hex Drinker was early. They're looking to fight and make a decisive play. This is a let's roll in with Olaf, kill someone, take Baron build, not a I want to waste Kai'Sa's time as long as possible. Olaf as a champion will lose his resist and die to Kai'Sa. That's just how late games go for Olaf. This one dies even faster, so it's going to be really about a split-second timing here. Will it be a Core JJ, Flash Pove that wins the game? Will it be one invade being cemented? Does feel like this game will pivot based on a decision from someone like Tarzan or Core JJ.
I feel like Gen.G are considering this Baron right now. I don't think they would start it unless there was just all the vision gone. Lissandra not so bad. AP Gragas going to be a little bit better, and obviously Kai'Sa is pretty good as AD, but they actually missed a ward in the Baron pit, which is just going to give Griffin a lot more safety. They know exactly if that Baron is going to be started. They don't have to make any face check plays for now.
First time this game, though, that Baron vision and topside control has been there for Gen.G. They've been bot side exclusively. Right now, Griffins don't really control anything when it comes to vision. They only have one control ward in their inventory. They have been known as a team to scrimp on vision. This is about back timings. Their back timings haven't gotten many things. They really want to engage.
Okay, they want Ruler here. There's the knockup, though, after the QSS. The shield comes in, and Olaf goes deep. Tarzan gets the kill. Looking for Haru, too, who's incredibly low. One more will do it, and Urgot is going to pick it up. A big fear onto both Crown and Cuvee. Crown just barely going to survive, but has to flash away from that one. Toby also going to pick up the kill. It's a rout by Griffin over Gen.G at this point. Cuvee may even go down in the end of it. Should be that clean ace. Only Tarzan goes down, and Griffin wiped the floor with them.
So close to a 5-0. It's a 4-1. We said that moment from Tarzan, or that moment from Core JJ. Tarzan finds his man. Lahens is joining him. Doesn't need to flash to make it happen. They get the pick onto Ruler, whose QS has timing. It's really tricky against Rakan. Doesn't pull it off when he goes down first. So do Gen.G. In the picture-in-picture, they're going to be on the Baron. Watch for the play here. Ruler knows he's too far up. The QSS doesn't get any value. He's still knocked up for the full duration. Between the Black Cleaver and the Hex Drinker, basically two go down. It is job well done, and the fear, as you noted, scuffs Aatrox from getting any damage onto the backline.
Ruler, I suppose, he's played too many games with Tahm Kench, right? That's a perfectly fine position if you have the Tahm Kench. Maybe only the Tahm Kench dies, but when you're going up against Olaf and the Rakan, you got to be careful. But now we got an Infernal Drake started up here by Gen.G. They're going to leave Haru to try to get it. He does get the smite. Should be going down, though, eventually. Axe is going to miss, but nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Going to give that kill over to Viper in trade for the Infernal.
The hashtag worth is still there when it comes to getting something against the Baron buff, and also a fourth Drake and an Infernal to boot is a nice little thing there for Gen.G. They will say, try to keep the base up at any cost. At worst, lose one inhibitor and be there to fight for the Elder that will spawn relatively early around the 37-minute mark.
Cuvee ended up doing the most damage in that fight somehow, even though he was feared for half of it, running for the other half. I suppose, okay, he's going to be going down here potentially up in the mid lane, has to pop his ultimate. as Lehens and Viper, the Lovers duo, are able to get in position and threaten that play.
But you just see the problem for Gen.G. They can never get there on Lissandra and Aatrox's terms. They're always their second, and one of them ends up doing nothing out of the two. Literally every skirmish or fight. This is the cost of the Lissandra draft. They're pushing up. Base going to be broken in a moment.
Sword is just laughing at them. He's taking the turret, doesn't care about Lissandra or Haru, just gonna cycle over to the mid lane now. This rotation from Griffin, and wow, okay.
That's just rude.
Not even sure what that was, but it was enough to get him to go back, as they're just gonna tank this turret up. Haru, meanwhile, is busy in the bottom lane. Easily able to pick this up even without the minions. Core.J.J, he's looking for that pack from the back.
He hasn't been spotted yet. His sweeper did not hover over the blue ward there from Griffin, so his spot wasn't revealed, but you do your math, you face enough Alistar, you know what to expect. They've taken 2 inhibited turrets, crucially no inhibitors. They would love to have those 2 down before the Elder Dragon does spawn, because it's ultra high value for Gen.G, and just a small bonus for Griffin when it does spawn.
Yeah, at the end of the day, their Baron power play is going to be quite massive. They're now 10,000 gold ahead of Gen.G. No inhibitors, as you mentioned, but only 3 turrets do remain, as we'll see what they do with the last minute of this one. Perhaps an inhibitor on the cards, but Griffin, as you can see, the last 4 minutes have been very kind to them.
They were never able to spike with their early game priority until 31 minutes when the early game truly is over. But one decisive fight, all those crosses there, swords, daggers, whatever they are, represent kills and represent really the moment where all the turrets went down, where they finally got what is going to be a really big Baron buff power play in terms of gold earned, because there was so much standing gold on the map for Griffin. They push up now. We see some of those closer items like Guardian Angel on an Olaf. We got a lot of AD on this Olaf. He's popping off. They're going to push up, and they're looking to find a way to close this game before the next Baron, or maybe even before the Elder spawns.
You mentioned the AD on Olaf. We saw what he could do after finishing off the Kai'Sa. Just went straight into Haru and said, come at me, bro. You can't do anything even if you are AP. Hex Drinker, Black Cleaver, as you mentioned, going to be good enough to keep him alive against that. And Gragas just didn't do much. Honestly, Haru had a really nice early game, but wasn't really able to start any big fights with Core.J.J. Those were the engaged duo, if you will, but they weren't able to do it here in the mid-game.
Trying to cement those inhibitor turrets being down. All ults up for the side of Gen.G. Viper starts hitting. Where will the Gen.G fight come in? Core.J.J.
Okay, once again on top of Zoe here. Did a nice job, but now he's only got Olaf. Gonna go in the back line though as Lehens pushes Ruler away. Nobody crucially will die, but a lot of low members on the side of Gen.G. Looks like Griffin. Their 2 tanky members are low. They don't seem to care about that. They got shields, they got Guardian Angel. They're continuously pushing. Lissandra finally finding her moment to catch 2. But in the end of the day, Sword just flashes away and laughs at them, as now Cuve's gonna get super low and should be going down here. No hope for him, as he did not have any support after that play. So now 2 inhibitors. They're not even waiting for the Elder Drake. They're just pushing in.
They're gonna have to back off now, though. They can't close the game here. Can Griffin? Sword was such a monster in that fight. He bought so much time with the adaptive helm, the now new standard build. We saw Chovy building every time for Griffin in that LCK final. Griffin at 2-0 with Urgot, this time 3rd time in the top lane. Looking like a victory as well. Don't have to overwhelm with damage. Sometimes you just eat, what, 4 or 5 rotations of Kai'Sa damage, and definitely you've done your job. Just watch how much damage Urgot is able to tank during this fight.
Yeah, there's a reason he's high tier. It was the double knockup by Core.J.J. I mean, it's just about as good as it was going to get in terms of engage.
He took 3 rounds of Kai'Sa popping her passive and still was above half health because of the adaptive helm. Very impressive stuff, and from there, everything's down on the side of Gen.G. I like the attempt at the re-engage, but they need damage to back up the Lissandra. We know that as the late game crests, you can't really expect threat from her. Only setup, and Ruler was in base when the Lissandra went in.
Yeah, if I'm Gen.G, I say, okay, that was a cute pick. Let's shelve the Lissandra now, unless we're going up against Akali. Looked good against her But outside of that, not too much. And well, perhaps another draft is in order here for Gen.G, as they don't have much hope in this one. 3 seconds until the Elder Drake spawns. Gen.G desperately trying to get some vision in here. There's that flash engage from Crown. The Hen's gonna get low, and Viper is gonna flash to the right side, and finally he goes down. Marula goes low too. Tarzan gets low enough with a pull-in from Tovi. He does have that Zhonya's though, and is gonna survive. Core JJ and Cuvée are gonna go down here in the end. The Aatrox ultimate not going to be enough. Get Sleepy Trouble Bubble. That's going to do it, guys. Good fight. Good try from Gen.G, but it was not enough.
Fighting in melee range. That's what Gen.G were looking for earlier in the game, but the gold lead really counts against them. 13,000 gold as the game should end here. So it never even took a speck of damage, shredding everyone the entire time. In game one, it's going to go the way of Griffin.
Yeah, I definitely jump into the next game and say, let's go ahead and ban that Urgot. Definitely part of the reason they win game number 1 here. Griffin feeling good after their win. Get a 3rd win on the Urgot, this time for Sword.
First pick, Urgot does its job. I called it the adaptive helm. Of course, I was thinking of Stone Plate, but you guys understand what I mean. Doesn't really matter which one it is. Urgot doesn't take damage. He's able to shred and shotgun people to death. Victory goes the way of Griffin, a really important victory for them. If we saw them with full-on faces and CV Max raising his voice after a loss, who knows if Griffin will be able to come back. But a game 1 victory does put them definitely in pole position to face Kingzone Dragon X in 2 days.
You can see that it's still all business in the Griffin booth. No smiles just yet. They know that, hey, we were 1 game away from getting directly into Worlds, but now we got to go through the trenches. We got to defeat good teams like Gen.G and potentially Kingzone. We got to make it through Gen.G first.
And then Gen.G. Who is the we? Because at the end of the day, last pick Lissandra, we were like, I don't know about this. In the game, the Lissandra couldn't be wielded. The Haru really had to deal with 3 losing lanes, so besides a very inspired first gank, he couldn't get much happening. Was that a crown issue or a draft issue or something in the middle? Because they do have strong players like Ambition and also Fly on the bench to be played this series.
Griffin looking really good. I like the draft from game number 1. No big mistakes in my mind. The Olaf and the Urgot were a fantastic combo.
That was the crown engage they were desperate for. Here comes Ruler, but now the gold has to be talked about. Urgot's not even there at the start of this fight, and that should be Gen.G, right? Hook, line, and sinker. But then Urgot shows up with multiple high-level members. It looked like this was a competitive fight, but it was mostly the outnumber that by the end, it didn't matter. Griffin were able to end it. Chovy melee range Zoe, not a meme, but actually very useful come the end of the fight.
Chovy and Viper right underneath all that damage, and CC didn't seem to matter. They were just too far ahead at that point. Let's go ahead and take a look at the result from game number 1. That is a graph. Happened in just about 5-6 minutes for Griffin to totally take over the game. And the Zoe, at the end of the day, everybody's favorite champion, is going to get the highest damage at the end of game 1.
This best of 5 could be a long one. We know it will be a fun one based on the previous series. Griffin were on a 2-game losing streak against Gen.G. They pick up this first game victory. The confidence will be very useful there too. Will Gen.G choose blue side like they were doing the entire time in the first round robin? This is actually the first time Gen.G have been on the red side in their 6th game in the regional qualifier.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to know, but it's definitely a very important one. Not a very common thing to happen, and so Gen.G should look a little bit better on the blue side. Although I believe they were banning out Urgot after they tried it that one time, so that's another thing. You know, they have blue side advantage, they have the first pick, but not the Urgot, so they're probably going to have to ban that again up against Griffin.
And if Fly comes in, maybe Fly is their Urgot player on the blue side. So we'll see if there's any method behind the madness. They are a team to ban away OPs because of small champion pools, but Valdez, I hear there's a break to be thrown to.
There is going to be a break, guys. We're going to be back in about 10 minutes for game number 2 of Griffin versus Gen.